Good morning. Happy Monday. It is Monday, August 24th, 2020. Hope everybody had a good weekend. We have a lot of stuff to cover today for sure. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. How was your weekend?
It was good. I got to
Eventful or what?
Yeah, I definitely got some R&R in there, you know. Went up by the water on the North Shore, hung out on a farm. And
Nice.
my buddy had just moved in there, and it's pretty amazing. It's like all old constructions. There's this. It honestly looks like you're just like in a Revolutionary War town.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Eastern part of the island is really, it's the geography of it and the some of the architecture.
I love the old shingles.
Yes, yes.
Like when you go to Montauk, for example, like there's a code of building.
Yes.
Where these houses and these structures kind of all have to follow, obviously, a building code, and they really do a good job of preserving the.
You feel like you're back in time when you.
You feel like you're in like Cape Cod in like the 70s,
Yep.
you know? Like it's just it's a good time, it's a good vibe, it's very pretty, and so yeah, it was a good weekend. How about yourself? What'd you do? Anything?
Not much. Just took yesterday. We took the little ones to the park for a while, and then your sister's she's gung ho about going to the park, and once we get to the park, she realizes, wait a second,
Where's my iPad?
Well, it's hot. I like it's the middle of summer. It's August, and
Yeah.
I want to go home and go in the pool. So it's we tried, but then we ended up they went into the pool for a little while, and that was it. So
As long as they get out of the house.
that's it.
Sunlight.
That's it. And no iPad, and her mother limits her to the amount of time she's allowed on it. But you brought something important up as far as today's day in history. When you were a little guy, we drove past the eastern part of Long Island on the South Shore, and you noticed something.
Sunrise Highway.
Right. And what was it about Sunrise Highway that you noticed at the time?
At the time, well, when we had driven out there, I remember you and Mom pointing out, look at the pine trees on the side of the road, and they all look like matchsticks.
Right.
And I wasn't aware.
And everything.
Yeah, it was. There was a major fire there.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was just a little one, and I didn't realize that it was such a big deal. But today actually marks the 25th anniversary of the Great Sunrise Fire.
Can't believe it's been 25 years since this fire, but
time flies, doesn't it?
It was an amazing time because first of all, originally it broke out in Rocky Point. They were able to extinguish it. Then it came over to East Hampton, and it basically West Hampton. Sorry, it basically cut off the Hamptons from the rest of the island for several days because
which is terrifying to think about because there's no unless you have a boat.
You're heading out to the water, or else it stopped railroad travel and it stopped just Sunrise Highway was basically shut down because the fire was engulfing both sides. So it did basically for several days cut off travel to the Hamptons, and it was at the height of the tourist season. So economically, they took a big hit out there, and it took
400 people were displaced from their homes, which at that time is.
Yeah.
I mean, even by today's standards, that's a ton of people for Eastern Long Island to have to evacuate their homes.
And it, luckily nobody perished as a result, but economically they did take a hit out there. And I think even today you could still, if you look hard, you could still see some of the.
It absolutely says. I mean, you can see it. There are some trees still. When I'm heading out towards Calverton that way, you could see like deep in there. There's still a couple little like nubs.
When all was said and done, 7,000 acres burned. So it was a tremendous area, and 25 years ago.
What were you doing around that time?
25 years ago, was that 95? 95. What was I doing? I was in my first year of college at Stony Brook. I was working, Friday nights I was bouncing in a bar in Babylon. And then Saturday and Sundays pumping gas, and during the week I was in college, and that was it. And just
Do you remember the headlines of this fire?
I do.
News?
I do. It was actually bad, and then it was all the firefighters that were coming from basically all over the Eastern Sea, all around New York. They were coming in and trying to help out because it really was once it got to the Hamptons, it was basically burning out of control. So But it was 7,000 acres, and I just can't believe it was 25 years ago. Time flies.
Just to point out, also, California is dealing with its two worst forest fires that they've had on record, which is, California is really having a tough time just in every which way you can imagine.
Yeah, a lot of people say that these fires are a necessary evil in order to keep things in check over there as far as the, just for the regrowth and everything. So I don't know enough about that to actually,
Sure.
but I do know that it seems like, yearly.
Every time you turn on the California news, it's a big fire.
Well, that's just
earthquakes, fires.
Yeah, that's just a tough state as far as natural disasters. It's tough.
I just want to throw in a little random fun thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever hear of the Battle of Los Angeles?
I heard that was an album by Rage Against the Machine, but that was it's a different.
This is different.
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
There was an unidentified flying object over Los Angeles at this time, at some point in history. It was probably in the 50s, I want to say. And there's video and photographic footage of military shooting at the thing. And this is over L.A. So anybody out there who wants...
How long ago? You don't know exactly how long ago this was.
I could pull that up.
But they nicknamed this event
It's called the Battle of Los Angeles. And just for a fun little project, if anybody's feeling a little tinfoil hat-like, look up the Battle of Los Angeles, and it will definitely give you a treat of a read. It's pretty strange stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, speaking of California, so not only are they dealing...
Anti-aircraft missiles.
They were firing
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and people have photographic evidence of it. It's a real thing.
Ugh.
So not only do they deal with earthquakes, fires, and
alien invasions,
in major cities.
Hats off to California.
Yeah, they handled it. They handled it.
Well, that's the thing. When you talk to people from California, they're very chill because they're so used to dating. Not dating, but so used to dealing with all this, all these events. But yeah, I was unaware of the Battle of Los Angeles. Like I said, I thought it was an album by Rage Against the Machine, but apparently there's a more important meaning to it. So.
Let's see. It was February 25th, 1942.
Oh,
I'm gonna read a couple things.
Yeah,
about it, right?
yeah, sure.
So the Battle of Los Angeles, also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, is the name given by the contemporary sources to a rumored attack on the mainland United States by Japan and the subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage, which took place from late February 24 to early February 25th, 1942, over Los Angeles, California. So I'm not going to go into much after that, but I guess what the internet's going to try to say is that it was an attack from Japan or it was some kind of strange. But when you look at the images of what they're firing at,
wow,
it certainly doesn't look like any technology that would have been had in 1942.
I've heard of most of the big alien events or sightings, and I read up on it, and that one I never heard of, so that's interesting.
It's interesting.
Thank you for
I recommend if anybody wants a fun read, definitely check that one out.
Battle of Los Angeles, okay.
Another fun one that I touched on my other YouTube channel at one point was called the Montauk Project, where they experimented with time travel. Okay. And that's another really good one if anyone wants to get into a little article hole. Definitely, yeah, it is. It really
was
is.
very popular, 40s, 50s, 60s, anything dealing with aliens, because TV was still a new medium, so a lot of things were heard over the radio, and science fiction was at its height back then, so people were really interested in that. So I would picture.
Did you ever listen to the original War of the Worlds?
Yes.
Very interesting,
very
isn't it?
Yes, sure is.
People didn't respond too well to that.
No, it was created mass hysteria. So
well, speaking of mass hysteria, we certainly have that going on in the country today. Yes. I wish it was due to a false alien story, though. Unfortunately, it's not.
Yep, we're going to get into that in a few minutes. Just basically, quickly, wanted to say today is the start of the Republican National Convention.
Yep.
Charlotte, North Carolina. So people are gathering on that side of the road.
From what I understand, they're not doing it totally electronically, totally like video chat.
Okay.
They're trying to get some type of a crowd. Which
interesting to see how they do that.
I get a little concerned about that.
Sure.
Because if any kind of an outbreak occurs, it's going to be a bad look. Yeah. And right away that's going to be a little dart thrown at the administration.
Yeah, before it even starts, and so that starts today. I also wanted to keep it light today on the politics for a Monday. Joe Biden, on his side of the table, they interviewed Kamala Harris, and something that we had spoken about with Biden. She's getting a lot of questions regarding Biden and his views on racism, especially since his views have shifted since the 70s. And in true Kamala Harris form, she's just no real answers to the questions they asked, knowing Biden's views and some of the quotes he's made in the past, how do you respond to that as his running mate? And she didn't even provide an answer. She basically said, we're just looking to go forward and not have any, that's just a distraction to what we're trying to do, which is, I get it. It's always better to look forward than to get mired in the past. But I just think, look, if you're going to be, I'm going to keep an eye on that, because if she's going to be lobbing that bomb over at the right, and she's going to be highlighting the racism card and whatnot, then it's something that I'm going to want to see her atone for, as far as what
Joe Biden said in the past.
Yeah, because she was sweeping it under, and then some of his crazy quotes, about you ain't black if just ridiculous stuff. But she really, in true Kamala fashion, just sweeping it under the table. So now, more importantly,
sure,
getting back to what we were talking about as far as chaos in the country. With what went on with George Floyd, and what went on with
Breonna Taylor, all these things.
Everything that happened in the aftermath, I was kind of hoping. We knew that by election time something was going to fan the flames.
Sure. And
it seems to be starting in some areas already. I'm sure everybody is aware, or they awaken and check the news. One of the first stories you'll see is that a man was shot 7 times, I believe. It was a black man shot 7 times in the back.
With his 3 children in his car.
Right.
At point blank range.
Right. So that is, first and foremost.
It almost revolts me.
Yeah, first and foremost, you don't have to be a liberal or a Republican, or
a Democrat,
conservative,
or independent, or a...
to hear that story and be absolutely sickened by it, and sickened to the point where, first of all, there's got to be a level of common sense at some point, where knowing what just went on, what the hell would that even enter into the fray at this point? Another shooting. So we just wanted to look at it a little closer, and just, rather than continually, just on and on with racism or anti-racism, kind of look at some solutions that, or some things that could take place in this country that will improve this, because it just does not seem to be getting better. Now, we did have all these protests. We did have all these violent protests in some cases. And for this to happen that close to, it doesn't seem to be getting the desired effect, which is police and people in the black community have better relations. We don't want these shootings to take place against anybody, let alone an unarmed man with 3 children in the car. So
yeah, it's like I don't even have
what transpired,
Well, from the video that I watched, it's tough to really give a context.
Sure.
Because you only get what you get on
now that is where the first problem lies. So I want to preface that by saying there is no excuse to shoot a man in the back, whether, to shoot an unarmed man in the back. There's no excuse. So with that being said,
there's just really no context for it. You see the gentleman and the cop, or multiple cops rather, having like a conversation on one side of their car,
mm-hmm.
and the guy kind of just turns away from him like, I'm tired of hearing you guys,
right.
and went to his car,
mm-hmm.
and the police ripped his shirt off,
mm-hmm.
and then stuck the gun in his back and shot him 7 times while his 3 children were in the back seat.
Oh, God.
And I'm sorry, lock them up.
Yeah.
These guys have to be off the force. They need to be that.
Yep.
We stand here a lot, and we support the police, and we support law and order. We support peace ultimately.
Right. And I still believe that we still support police. I mean, again, an event happens, it doesn't mean that everybody who's a police officer
is a bad guy. Correct.
But I would like to see, though...
Or girl.
Yes. I would like to see, though, people in blue coming out condemning this.
Right.
En masse.
This needs to be answered by the police across the nation.
Right. Guys, you have a lot of people supporting you. And, we've been on this podcast supporting you guys. But, man, you don't make it easy for us. And you don't make our job any easier when something like this happens. Now,
it's another story if you're having a shootout. It's another story, but
of course,
I can't.
Yeah. There's
I can't get into my head to a point where
an unarmed man 7 times.
I mean, if you see the video, they really jam the gun in his back, and it's like sadistic.
There's no excuse for it, and there's no reason for it to take place. And,
they have lesser lethal options on their tool belt. That will certainly...
Do you know how many policemen were around this guy?
It looked like there was about 3 to 5.
Okay. So 3 to 5 policemen can't subdue one guy. I think that's an issue right there. Also, though, look, it does help, and there's nothing that's going to make this right or okay for a man to be shot. The reason, though, that I'm saying I just wanted to hear what went on is I want to see if we actually have a bigger problem where did the cops just randomly walk up to this guy on the street and start bothering him or and accosting him, or was he doing something that warranted a cop to come up to him and start, questioning him or whatever. And that's not to say, he was doing something wrong, he deserves to be shot. No, it's to say, wow, are these cops really targeting black people?
Like when
I want to know. And the press doesn't help by just leaving that to our imagination. Like, what went on that led for these two groups, this gentleman and the police officers, to have any sort of communication other than, hello, officer, hello, sir, goodbye, just random highs and goodbyes. Why did they have communication? What happened? And that's not, again, it's not to say there's any reason to do what they did. There's not. It's just, I want to see where this problem started. Right. Where did it start? So, regardless,
when the case goes to court, all the facts are going to have to be
presented. But it would help.
It would help if before the public gets whipped up into a frenzy to have that as well.
And that's where I feel like the media, there should be outrage to this. Regardless, it's disgusting.
I'm outraged.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
I was outraged by George Floyd, and I knew that was just one of the most gruesome things I've seen, regardless if he had drugs on him, But this one, for some reason, I just,
this is where and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is where an event like this goes from being a time to look at law enforcement in America and some of the areas that need to be improved, because I don't care what anybody says, there needs to be law enforcement in this country. There needs to be police. Yep. It's necessary to have officers, God forbid you're ever in need, or God forbid a crime takes place. It is necessary to have police. And having them just answer to the central government is not the answer, because it's only going to be more corruption at that point. But with that being said, the media needs to show the entire story, because what happens is when you see something like that, I don't even know what color the cops were. I haven't even looked at the whole thing yet. But if the guy shooting was a white guy, or there were a few white guys involved, it becomes an issue where you're looking at law enforcement in the black community or law enforcement and civilians to then overlapping and becoming blacks versus whites. And in that case, it's almost like you start to wonder if there's an agent provocateur in there. Right. And are they planting people in these agencies? Because sometimes it looks like it's so out of the ordinary.
It's so heinous.
Yeah, and so despicable that a normal police officer would not engage in something like that. So that's times when, by the media just not giving the full story, it's really... It's not,
I just want to jump in
dangerous.
and say these things are really difficult to talk about.
Very.
And
Very. I don't want to talk
I
about
don't want to talk about it either, but we
Yep.
have to.
Yep.
And everyone needs to kind of speak up, act like gentlemen and ladies, and
Right.
and really
Right.
put their thinking caps on,
Right.
and we got to come up with a better solution.
Yep. I think first and foremost, both sides of the table need to sit down and say, this was wrong.
Yeah.
This was a disgusting, despicable act that should never occur. Let's at least agree on that first.
Yep.
So that there's
Which
not...
we certainly did.
Right. And that is where we think we condemn it wholeheartedly. And I don't, say like when a liberal mayor comes out in a city and says, we condemn violence of all kinds. No, there should never be an unarmed man or a man with his back turned getting into a car like that shot 7 times by
Just
law
firing
enforcement.
one shot.
Right. It should never happen. So
Is-
with that being said, though, now I think if we can all agree on that point and not rush to judgment and say, oh, you guys hate black people or this side
Sure.
is just pro-cop and they... look,
Again, it's not
yeah.
a reflection on the millions of police officers.
And it absolutely...
It's a reflection on those gentlemen.
Right.
I'm not going to give them the respect to call
No.
them gentlemen. They're dogs.
Right. Well, I would never, I would never condemn all police because it's not. I know plenty of police officers. I don't know any police officers that would look at that and say that was a great thing or that. Yeah, well, that
Good
guy
judgment
deserved
call.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reality of it is, police officers do not think that was good. So I'd like to see them in mass come out and condemn this. I think that would go a long way to to at least showing that they're in this, they're in this with
I'm
the
sorry,
people.
but I'm going to have to support the movement for justice, for real justice for this guy.
Yeah.
Because this is not...
I just wish I knew what the hell happened. And if somebody could answer us, even in the comment section and let us know what actually led up to it. It doesn't
we've
make
been
it right.
surfing the web a little
Yeah.
bit this morning trying to really get to the bottom of this.
That's
and,
the problem is you can't find it.
You could find the shooting video.
Of course.
But you can't find
Right.
audio and visual
Yep.
evidence prior to that.
Yeah, the media's very good at picking and choosing,
Their sound bites.
and then they'll put a quote in by a governor and say, well, look, the police have been mercilessly shooting black people for a while now.
Yeah.
Like, look, have the police been guilty of shooting black people, heinously as this was? Absolutely. I've also seen the police shooting people of every color heinously, like the white guy on his knees begging for his life that got shot by police. So these things happen to everybody, and that's why we are against it. We're against it when it happens to a black person. It's disgusting. It's disgusting when it happens to a white person.
Anyone.
Yeah. So, again, I think we all the sides need to kind of come together and work together instead of these violent, ridiculous protests that actually start to veer from anti-police to anti-white and then
Anti-American as well.
anti-American. And what you do, then you're just turning a lot of the public against you. You might think everybody's with you, but they're really not.
Right.
You're turning a lot of people against you and against the cause when there is a viable cause. Right now, there is a viable cause for outrage. There is a reason for people to be outraged, and we support it. But,
However,
when,
with all these, again, I can't... Two wrongs don't make a right.
right, exactly.
So,
exactly.
this gentleman was shot by the hyenas, and what happens? Riots, looting, to businesses in that town.
Right. What the hell
who
does
had
that have
nothing
to do with
with this shooting.
Right.
Those people are probably good people.
Right,
They
right.
probably support the cause.
Working people,
Why do they need to set fire to everything in the town?
that's where it starts to lose me.
Right.
And the sad thing is, this person that got shot deserves justice for his children, for his family, for himself.
And when they start burning the town down, it really takes away from that poor guy's...
that's where I think these people become selfish.
Right. It's all about them.
Right.
It's all about making
yeah.
them feel better.
Right.
Their
right.
anger.
That-
Their personal
yes,
anger.
yes. So, that's where I think a lot of the anger on both sides occurs. And I think it starts with the way the press I could see it already in the way the story was presented. Look, all you have to do is write, an unarmed man was shot in the back.
Right.
Who cares?
Post the video.
Right. And that is enough to make me spitting with anger about it, because it's disgusting. But when you start to add the terms, the racist
Thank God the guy
terms
survived too. I mean, it's a miracle to sustain 7 shots.
God.
And to live.
Do they have any word of his condition or anything? Or?
I'm sure it's critical.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But like, he's like, I'm just wondering if he is going to make it.
I just want to send my warmest wishes and prayers to the guy and his family, because, if that at the end of the day, like you're saying, could have been anyone.
Nobody deserves it.
No.
And I just want to, but again, I think that there are solutions to these problems. And, there's ways for people as a group on both sides to sit down and really hash out solutions for the future. And I think, first off, when the initial process of hiring police officers, I think, is faulty.
Absolutely.
And there's several reasons for that, but when you go away from hiring people based on pure qualifications, meaning they're qualified to be a police officer mentally and physically, is when you run into problems right from the get-go. So I do have experience in this, because I did take a police test, and I've spoken about this before, and I'm not trying to beat this to death, but it's just illustrating the point that I'm talking about. I took a police test. At the time, I was in college on my way towards getting a master's degree. I had, I was in good physical shape. I passed the physical. And I was going to school for teaching. I've had good relations with the students. I've taught people of different colors. Chances are I would have made a good police officer. The test that I took was thrown out because not enough minorities scored high enough. So all the guys that did well, or girls that did well on that test, passed the physical, everything else, were now not, deemed not good enough to become cops. And it's because, minorities didn't score high enough. So right then and there, you're taking people who probably were highly qualified to do the job, where events like this might not take place, and you're throwing that away, and you're finding it more important to meet quotas based on color, based on religion, based on sex. That becomes more important than the actual qualifications for the job. So right then and there, guys, and both sides have to look at this. Blacks have to look at that also and understand, look, you want people hired based on color or based on, things other than qualifications, such as you were in the military, you automatically get points. Now, I respect people in the military. Thank you to all of them for fighting, for the country. I have both my grandfathers were in the military, but I also have seen people who were in the military and came back with PTSD, and might not have made the best police officers. So to give them 10 points so that they leapfrogged everybody else from the start could be an issue. I mean, there's a lot of issues that are a lot deeper than just simply saying it's the white cops don't like the black people. And you got to look at every aspect of what it takes to become a police officer in this country. And the problem does seem to be more in America, because other countries are looking at us and saying, I've seen the comments on all various sites on both sides of the table saying, wow, American cops are, they're overboard with the force and this and that. So we do have to start looking from the test. And that's, again, to both sides. If you're a person of color or you're a woman and you want qualifications lowered to become a police officer,
right,
then just understand you're already starting with a faulty system to hire police officers. Consequently, if you're a black person, you score well on that test, you deserve equal opportunity to get the job. And that's, that's my point, though, is there can't be, you can't have it all. You can't have lowered qualifications because,
and have higher quality policing.
And then expect doesn't work like that. And there's nothing you're going to do to make it work. So to the Al Sharptons of the world and the people of the world that keep beating this drum,
The Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
guys,
de Blasio,
it doesn't
Lightfoots.
work. And
No.
it's not about me saying I don't want black cops. It's not about me saying I want more white cops. It's about me saying I want qualified cops to do the job the right way,
Sure.
so somebody doesn't get shot in the back 7 times.
Right.
Bottom line.
Right. Well, this is my argument against defunding the police.
Right.
Which is trending on Twitter again, by the
Right.
way. So I'm never really too happy to see that.
Right.
My main argument would be that I think the police need more funding, more training, more time in the academy, more time in urban scenarios that are very true to what they're going to
Self-defense,
experience.
things like that.
Proper self-defense, jiu-jitsu. You know, you see these like 300-pound fat cops who can't even keep up, and they, you know, you can't have that. You need true to God, like RoboCop cyborgs who really just have had the proper training, know how to deal with it, know how to respect people. And that's one of the problems with their training is they're taught how to address the public. And one of the ways that they're taught is to be intimidating is how they speak, how
Yes.
they come at you.
Sure.
And, you know, it's happened to me when I've been pulled over. I'm like, hey, officer, how you doing? And right away, he's just like, staunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, I know you're going to give me
We've
a ticket.
anybody who's been pulled over at one time or another. I mean, I've had
Yeah.
cops that were great. Wonderful. In fact, I got pulled over coming home from your
Yeah,
your
I have
house one day.
After this, I have a great story.
Yeah,
Please, go ahead.
and the officer, you know, he took a look at my license, took a look at everything, and you know, I was respectful right away. I didn't give him any, you know, I was in the wrong at the time, and he cut me a break. But consequently, and I'm not going to say it's because the color of my skin, because the honest truth is he was nervous when he approached because he didn't come up all the way to the window. I had a ski hat on like I have now, unfortunately. Bad hair day. But anyway, I had a ski hat on. I had a black hoodie on. I looked like I could have been a criminal, and you know, or the quote unquote, I guess what somebody would deem criminal attire, and. You know, but I was driving a nice car at the time, so it was, you know, God knows what was going through his mind, and I have to respect that on their end. So rather than come off, you know, right away being defensive because I was in the wrong, I was respectful, and I said, you know, officer, you know, whatever it was he told me I did, I said, you're right, and I was, you know, I'm wrong, I apologize, and he came back after he went to his car to check on my license, and thank God I didn't have anything outstanding, and you know, he let me go, but. There were times when, you know, I was younger, I was pulled over, and I didn't have that break from the cops, and they weren't exactly, you know, cheery to talk to me.
Well,
and,
usually you're breaking a law.